Hello and welcome everybody, I'm the Rambling Director. Merry Christmas. I've been doing a retrospective review series on Friendship is Magic, and right now I'm still in Season 1, working my way through the entire series. However, I've skipped all the way into the future to talk about this specific episode. I didn't want to wait a couple years down the road to be basically finished with the series before I talk about it. You see, I think that this episode, A Hearth-Warming Tale, is one of the best TV show adaptations of A Christmas Carol. Most TV shows that have done adaptations or have done episodes that are like, oh, let's do A Christmas Carol for this episode and take kind of the whatever character's the most curmudgeon-y and we just have them, go through this change and realize Christmas is a wonderful time. Most of them still heavily borrow from the source material. What I love about this episode is that it is entirely lore-based. It's really impossible to separate this from the lore of the My Little Pony world. Gen 4, of course. It's also, despite the fact that I have talked about how much I love the religious subtext in Charles Dickens' classic A Christmas Carol, this is a very secularized version, which focuses way more on the praxis of Christmas rather than on the meaning, the deeper meaning behind it. And in fact, there is still kind of a little bit of religious subtext you can draw out of this if you want to, but we'll get to that at the end. Really, what I want to focus on is that I think this is a wonderful defense of the practices of Christmas rather than just the holiday itself. So let's dive in. The episode starts with a great little song written by Daniel Ingram. This episode is a musical, and for my money, it's actually one of the best Scrooge musicals there is. Not because it really relates to A Christmas Carol story so much as I just think every song is a banger. There's also this great little moment where Tabitha St. Germain, as Rarity, is singing about hanging the decorations and decking the halls, and Derpy drops an ornament. It kind of feels like something out of the SpongeBob song, This Christmas Feels Like the Very First Christmas to Me.
Not one mistake, don't let that break, oh goodness sake.
Now, Starlight Glimmer, who, if you're following my retrospective reviews, we haven't met yet. We don't meet her until Season 5. And by this point in the series, she has become a full-blown main character. She's a part of the main cast for the last 3 seasons of the show. And in this case, she is telling Twilight and Spike how she doesn't really want to do Christmas, or Hearth-Warming, which is their Christmas equivalent this year, and she thinks she's going to skip it. Now, I don't know if that's meant to be a reference to John Grisham's Skipping Christmas. It might be. Did I say Skipping Christmas or Skirping Christmas? Whatever. And then for those who didn't see previous Hearth-Warming special episodes, we get a reiteration that the holiday within the world of My Little Pony is based around the idea that the 3 races, Earth Ponies, Pegasi, and Unicorns, come together in friendship, and their friendship is so magical and warm that it drives away the Wendigos. No, I didn't mispronounce that. That's what they're called. Everything in this show is a freaking pun. And Starlight has the same sort of, I call it Charlie Brown syndrome, that a lot of characters do, where she's basically saying, it seems like this is just an excuse for, giving gifts you can't afford, and just being silly and, throwing parties. It doesn't seem like it's really that much about love and friendship. So she's focusing more on the consumerism aspect, rather than what people actually can get out of embracing practices that could lend themselves to consumerism. So for instance, throwing a party may lend itself to consumerism. You are paying corporations a lot of money for the food you're buying and for party favors or whatever else you're doing. However, it is overlooking the actual meaning behind that party and what people get out of it. It's funny because although I don't blame anybody for having those feelings, I also feel like a lot of the time it really comes down to people kind of missing the point about Christmas in general.
I think what Spike means to say is Hearth-Warming is about more than presents and candy.
So Twilight tells Starlight that she maybe just doesn't have the right Christmas story. That maybe if she heard the right Hearth-Warming story, it would put her in the right mood. So she offers to read her favorite, their version of A Christmas Carol, A Hearth-Warming Tale. This is the story of a mean unicorn named Snowfall Frost, who lives in the only house in their entire town that is not decorated for Christmas. Sorry, hearth swarming. Starlight is an alchemist who has focused all her attention on honing her magic so that she can do cool things like turning lead into gold. Now this is kind of neat in terms of lore because it means that alchemy is a fictional concept within the already fictional world of My Little Pony. That's kind of neat because this show does not have a whole lot of fiction within fiction characters that don't end up becoming canonically real later. Snowdash, the Bob Cratchit equivalent, comes in, and this is kind of a moment to be a foil to Snowfall so that we can understand why Snowfall Frost feels that hearth swarming is a waste of time. Now, the first thing to notice is that much like the Mickey Mouse Christmas Carol and many others, the characters are playing the roles within this story. So Starlight takes on the role of Snowfall because that's how she sees the character in her head. She relates to this character, right? And of course, Snowdash is Rainbow Dash. Pretty subtle. We also get Flutter Holly later, who is literally just Fluttershy.
That silly legend is the problem. Telling every pony that singing songs and being nice will solve anything.
Now, this is a cool little moment for a few reasons. The first is within the lore of this show, there is a lot of emphasis on friendship saving the day, but occasionally friendship does just result in magic that just bursts out and does things for them.
I think you might be missing the point.
Work hard, learn, and use your skills to better Equestria. That's a worthy goal for any pony.
Now this is great because Snowdash literally just states the whole point of the story. Listen, boss, you're kind of taking this whole thing way too seriously. I mean, let's say it is all a legend. It's an excuse to get together with your friends and family and, kind of celebrate your friendship. That's not at all a bad thing. So Snowfall decides to cast a spell which will remove hearth swarming from the calendar, making it so the holiday never happened. Now that's important because remember, although Snowfall says it's a myth or a legend, we have heard the myth and legend that the friendship of the Earth Ponies is all that keeps the Wendigos away, and the Wendigos bring with them an eternal winter. You don't want that. It basically would kill all human life, or equine life. So the spirit of hearth swarming past shows up, played by Applejack, one of my favorites.
And you and me have got to have us a little chat.
A spirit? I didn't cast any spirit summoning spell.
I love her design in this. The costumes are all great, but there's just something wonderful about her Stetson hat being part of her ghost costume.
You don't think a spell like that would get by without some powerful forces noticing? You've got our attention, Snowfall Frost.
Now this kind of jumps over the whole surplus population thing in a clever way by having it simply be that that spell is so powerful and would change so much that the spiritual realm just took notice of it. So they go into Starlight's past and reveal a few things about her, just as you would expect from any Scrooge-type story.
As a young thing, life sure is something. You go making choices large and small.
I love this song. I think the lyrics are really, really clever.
The seeds as they grow, look what they can show.
Comparing time as seeds, that the things we're doing now are planting seeds, and that going back into the past we can see where those seeds were planted and how they grew into what they are today.
Was growing like a seedling and playing this like dreaming, and before you know it, big and tall.
I especially love the line describing childhood that says, playing is like dreaming. Like, remember there was that magical time when, as you'd play games like the living room or wherever you were, it kind of melted away and you were there. That is so representative of what I feel like a lot of us grew up feeling, and the kind of memories we have of childhood and playing. So this teacher, who kind of looks like Professor Snape, kind of just tells Starlight, or Snowfall Frost, that in order to make anything of herself, she needs to stop believing in all these silly fairy tales and kids' stories and make all of her efforts going towards being the most powerful wizard she can so that she can better Equestria and help other ponies.
And what is the way that one becomes a powerful unicorn?
Work hard, learn, and use your skills to better Equestria.
Now this is kind of a cool setup because it turns out that hearthwarming is actually helping other ponies, but she can't see that because she's been so blinded by this teacher who she really loved and admired, basically telling her she'd never be anything or amount to anything if she doesn't put away her childhood and her ideas about Hearthwarming Eve.
Work hard, learn, and use your skills to better Equestria.
Work hard, learn, and use your skills to better Equestria.
Unlike Scrooge, who just kind of gradually associates the holiday with something negative, Snowfall is basically told that she should associate it with being lazy.
Feeling helpless, you can't make it hurt less, so you go and change your point of view.
Again, that is just a great line. It kind of sums up like that sort of trauma that you can experience as a child. That is such a quick, simple thing that happens when a kid just gets told something that the adults in their life don't really think anything about, but the kids take it seriously, and it can change your whole life.
And in that moment, though you didn't know it, your defenses set up walls you built to last, and the spell you're about to cast, it all comes from your past.
Again, I love any version of Scrooge where the Scrooge character is seeing themselves in the past and kind of relating to themselves. It's a neat little moment. Next, we get the Spirit of Hearthwarming Presents. No, I didn't say that wrong. It's a celebration of giving everybody gifts. Now, I actually really like this because, again, it's not just saying, oh, consumerism bad. It's saying, actually, you know what? The idea of a gift in and of itself is a good thing. And it's not only closed-minded, but it's completely missing the point of the gift to just say that gifts are spending money you don't have, or gifts are meaningless, or you're just filling up somebody's, house with useless junk. Because gifts have meaning.
Sometimes a cupcake means, I love you, or a toy means, hi, how you doing? And sometimes a scarf means, well, scarf usually means you look cold. That one's easy.
This is another song that the lyrics are just spectacular. I love the puns and the little wordplay throughout this song.
Open up your heart, it will surround you in the magic of Hearthwarming Eve. Presents always filled with presents, large, medium, and small. Sometimes the most important things aren't very big at all.
I especially love this line.
Life is better when you're given. Each time you do it feels so sweet.
Man, that just kind of sums up, in fact, the religious subtext in the original too. Life is better when you're giving. We see the Hearthwarming party that Snowfall refused to go to, and just kind of get some hints that she might have been happier if she had gone.
She said Hearthwarming Eve is just an excuse to party, and we would all be better off spending time working to make Equestria a better place.
It looks like we've got everything on Snowfall's list right here. I think a perfect Equestria looks a lot like a Hearthwarming Eve party.
I love this moment in particular because Snowfall just keeps saying that she wants a better Equestria, or that she wants to work for a better Equestria, but what would that look like? No, Equestria is not idyllically perfect. It has a lot of problems, and there's a villain of the week every other day, but you know what? It is still a place that values camaraderie and friendship and love above everything else. And Hearthwarming is a time in particular when they just stop everything to focus on friendship and love, brotherhood and sisterhood and camaraderie. So if it is in fact making people happier and making people more generous and better, then how is it not making Equestria a better place? And same thing with Christmas. How can it ever be anything but a good thing? Even if people do turn it into a consumerist nightmare. It in itself is still a time when people come together and focus on love and friendship and family. I mean, it is a day that we all just decided to come together and celebrate. I mean, for instance, in America, it's a national secular holiday. Whether or not you agree with the religion behind it, it's something we came together and said, we're going to celebrate this because it's a day when we just set everything else aside and look at wholesome family, friends, and the love that we can give. Generosity soars at Christmas time. Charitable giving is always higher at Christmas time than anywhere else. So how can it be anything but a good thing, even if some people do use it as an excuse to party and get drunk and get gifts they don't deserve? Of course, the ghost of Hearth's warming present is played by Pinkie Pie, who is typically the show's comedic relief. And we end with a pretty good joke on her part.
Too bad it's going to be the last one ever!
Next we see the spirit of Hearth's warming yet to come. Ghost of Christmas Yet to Come is my favorite ghost in the book, and typically ends up being one of my favorites when done really well. In this case, Hearth's warming Yet to Come is played by Princess Luna, who is one of my favorite characters in the entire show. And I have to say, her kind of gothic night decor, the fact that she's always associated with darkness, it really is perfect casting to put this character in this role. She sings a song too, this one about how Snowfall Frost will succeed with her spell, and because Hearth's warming will be erased, the world will turn into an apocalyptic nightmare.
I see a cold wind blowing through. I see days neither fun nor free.
Hey, you ever seen the movie Carol for Another Christmas, written by Rod Serling? This is like a kid's movie version of that.
Because of you, snowfall frost. Now the future is a cold nightmare.
Starlight sees the Wendigos and sees that the eternal winter has been brought on because there was no friendship between the races. As a result of that, she comes to believe in the truth of Hearth's warming, that it's not just an old legend, but it's serious. Now, I mentioned I'd get around to that religious subtext I'm always harping about in these Christmas Carol videos, but I actually think that this is a good little analogy for that, because a lot of people do see the story of Christmas as some old myth or legend that's not really related to our life at all.
I think to most ponies, it's just an excuse for silly songs and fun, not a day to remember some old story.
But the whole reason that Christmas, in its modern form, is celebrated is because of the story of Jesus. The idea that the God who created everything, who is love itself, declares peace between humans and God. That redemption has come, that no matter how bad you are, you can be redeemed, you can be saved, you can be enough, you can come to a place where you're living in truth and love and kindness, no matter how bad you are. That nothing is beyond redemption. That sort of hope is not really something that we see anywhere else. And so, okay, fine, say you're an atheist. Take it as an old myth or legend. It is still the most hopeful legend that you will ever hear. And if you take it seriously, then you find it actually changes the way you live your life. Because these Wendigos, they suck out the warmth and joy, sort of like Dementors do in Harry Potter. And the only way to fight back against them is to spread love and tolerance and gentleness and generosity. And that really is the message of the original Christmas Carol. The only way to fight back the demons of our society is by spreading love rather than selfishness and greed and hatred, and to look upon everybody else as, in the words of Fred, fellow travelers on the way to the grave rather than some race of other creatures. So Snowfall Frost goes to the Christmas party, and they invite her in with open arms, and she has a great time. And as Twilight Sparkle declared, of all the Hearth's warming, Snowfall's was the most Hearth's warmingest. Gosh, that's goofy. Twilight tells Starlight, hey, thanks for letting me read the story for you. Guess you can call it a night, like you wanted. Starts to leave and says, you know, if you change your mind, you're always welcome to come down to the party. And Starlight actually does. She decides that she does want to just hang out with her friends. Even if that's all the holiday ultimately amounts to, it's a good reason to celebrate the friendships and the family and the joy that you shared throughout another year together.
Sometimes you just let go of the past. Enjoy the present while it lasts, with good friends by your side.
And we end with a reprise of that first song.
All together feeling great.
Hearth's warming Eve is here once again. Hearth's warming Eve is here once again.
As I said, this is one of the few TV adaptations of A Christmas Carol that I think strips everything else away and makes it just inextricable from the actual lore of the TV show. It's not just plugging new characters into these roles. It's completely revising the roles in their entirety, pretty much, to create a brand new story, which is what Charles Dickens wanted. He called it A Christmas Carol because he wanted it to be something like a Christmas song that would be rewritten, revamped, revised, sung by different people. People would add verses, people would take verses away. He wanted this to be a story that you would hear every year, told by different people. And he wanted it to be something that would last the centuries, and it certainly has done that. It's an incredibly timeless, beautiful story because it touches at the heart of things that are important for all humanity: kindness, generosity, caring about our fellow man, and just trying to generally be the experience of love to other people. It is set in a religious framework because the God of Christianity is love itself. And so to love and to give is when we are the most like God. And in the last 2,000 years, that's been the centerpiece of Christianity and the centerpiece of Christmas. Even if you don't believe in the religion behind it, it's good to look at something that refocuses you and says, you know what, there is something bigger than me, and maybe that something bigger is only humanity, but I do have to take care of it. I do have to take care of the other people around me and this world that we live in. Anyway, I'm going to get off my soapbox now and let you enjoy your Christmas. Thank you everybody for watching. God bless you. Merry Christmas, and I will see you in the new year.